Do you ever feel like your relationships are constantly a roller coaster of ups and downs, really fantastic moments, and then really difficult or challenging events? Maybe at first it was fun to be on the roller coaster and it kept things spicy or exciting, but maybe you've reached a point where you're ready to get off. Well, if this sounds like you might be a fearful avoidant attachment style. And in today's video, I'm going to take you through exactly what that means, but most importantly, one secret tool that you can use to heal this attachment style as fast as possible. So, first and foremost, some things that we know about fearful avoidance as a whole is number one, they have both an anxious and avoidant side, which in other words means that you'll tend to have the core wounds of the anxious attachment style and the dismissive avoidance style. So, you'll have the fears of abandonment, exclusion, being alone, and those will be there, right? Those abandonment fears and that anxiety can actually be a big thing for a lot of fearful avoidance. In fact, a lot of fearful avoidance often come into PDS and think originally that they were anxious, preoccupied, and then realize, oh my goodness, I actually have this entire avoidance side to my attachment style as well. And in that case, you may have fears of being trapped, helpless, powerless. And you may also have some shame wounds, right? So we'll have these dynamics as a part of the fearful avoidant. But then one of the biggest wounds that fearful avoidants have is they tend to have a lot of wounding around trust. And what that means essentially is that you have this big core wound of I will be betrayed. Now, this isn't always because people outwardly and overtly betrayed you in childhood or growing up. It could be because there's a lot of broken promises, there were a lot of inconsistencies, maybe, what people told you versus what actually happened didn't really line up. And so you learn to have to read between the lines and become hypervigilant because you couldn't trust what was being told to you. And this wound, until it's resolved, can literally make or break relationships. It is so difficult to have relationships without some degree of trust. And let's look together here for a moment at some of the costs. When we can't trust somebody in a relationship, we can't let our guard down, we can't be really vulnerable. We can't truly open up. We're always looking over our shoulder and we can't bond in a sustainable way with somebody. But the benefits of being able to trust are that we can actually let somebody truly know us. We can get truly seen. We can lower our guard and our defenses, and we can have this really supportive element of a partner in our lives. Now, one of the big things that I'll see with fearful avoidant attachment styles all the time is just how difficult it is for you to really let your guard down. As somebody who was a fearful avoidant attachment style, I can very much relate to this. You may really want love and really want that connection and depth in a relationship, but it's like you just can't trust that it will go right. You just can't trust that. What about in 5 years or 10 years if this person wounds or betrays me? Why would I want to opt in for that? And I get that. But overcoming these trust wounds doesn't mean that you're suddenly going to be, throwing caution to the wind and you're never going to, take the time to vet somebody or address red flags. It means that we can actually build this strong foundation of trust in a relationship where even if somebody makes a mistake and hurts us, we trust that we can communicate about it, we can work through it, and we trust that other person will show up to make amends. And that these things will be small hurts in the grand scheme of things. We can trust that somebody won't hurt us in a really, really big way. And so we can really let ourselves be known and we can let ourselves bond and connect more deeply. Now, I also understand that as a fearful avoidant, I know when I was fearful avoidant, the idea of trust seems silly. I was scared to trust other people because I would actually think, well, what if I trust somebody and then the wool's pulled over my eyes? Or, how can I even possibly trust somebody in a romantic relationship? That doesn't make sense. But I came to know over time that actually trust can be a really big cornerstone of a relationship and a huge blessing. So here are some really important things we need to understand about trust. Number one, we have to reprogram our trust wounds. Now, we can do this by actually seeing the opposite perception of what we've been programmed with to begin with. So, for example, whenever we have an imprint or a core wound, our subconscious mind is essentially the lens that we see and interact with the world through. So what this means is that if you believe, from past experiences, people will always hurt you or betray you, then you see the world and all of your relationships through this lens, or at least your romantic ones. And so you'll probably find yourself in this position thinking, well, this is constantly going to be the outcome. And we have to see why the opposite may be true. Now, we got these wounds imprinted into our subconscious mind to begin with because of repetition repetition plus emotion. In other words, we were exposed to repeated circumstances over and over again that led us to think that we can't trust, really, that let our trust expectations down. And so this could be that you constantly saw people lying or saying one thing and doing another, or being really inconsiderate to you and how you felt in different dynamics. And so, this may cause you to reproject that back out, right? Your subconscious has been programmed with this. You now see the world and your relationships through this lens, and you assume this will be the case in the future. However, we have to start by challenging that paradigm through repetition and emotion. So if we can leverage repetition and emotion of the opposite, let's say, why it's possible to trust, why trust may be something worth investing in. If we can give ourselves a lot of messaging using repetition and emotion over time on that side of the equation, we can kind of neutralize these old concepts and perceptions that we've been carrying. And this is a very important first step to healing trust wounds, seeing why it's possible to trust, seeing what proof or evidence we have in our lives that there are trustworthy people, that people can have trust in relationships, that you do know of sustainable relationships where, trust is a big cornerstone. And the more repetition and emotion we have of that, the more we can start neutralizing these wounds. However, this is not the only way to build self trust. It's a really important first step. But what I've seen over and over again with fearful avoidance is even if you do belief reprogramming, what ends up taking place is if you don't enable yourself to build self trust, you're going to keep seeing these wounds almost like a scab being torn back open again. So, what does this actually mean? Well, trust in and of itself, when we look at trust, happens because of a few key ingredients. We trust people who are congruent. So what they say and what they do actually line up, right? If I say I'm going to create a daily YouTube video every day, and then I create a YouTube video once a year, you're not going to trust me to create a daily YouTube video, right? So what I say and what I do have to actually come together and make sense. Number two, we need to see some element of consistency, right? If somebody constantly says, oh yeah, I'll see you on the weekend, and then they don't see you on the weekend, right? Not only are they missing the congruency, but there's this element of consistency just missing, where you don't even get the consistency to build that momentum and build that bond with somebody. And then number three, we trust people who are considerate of us, right? If somebody says, hey, I can see that you're upset right now. Are you okay? If we know that they're attuned to us, they're empathizing with us, they're considerate of how we feel, this is a huge part of building trust with somebody. And then number four, context. If people share the why behind things with us, we tend to have context and we can see their opinion and where they're coming from. And the more we have this sense of transparency as fearful avoidance with other people, the more we tend to be able to feel like we can trust them because we have context for why they're doing what they're doing. We can kind of let our guard down. We understand them. That transparency allows us to really trust. The transparency and context being like interchangeable terms there. I just want to jump in here and let you know that we are doing a 14-day free trial to the All Access Membership Pass at PDS, which means you get access to literally everything inside of the school. And this includes the 4 live webinars I do with our students every single week. And on top of that, you get access to all of our different courses. We have over 55 different courses on relationships, communication, boundaries, emotional mastery, guilt and shame, learning your needs, so many different facets that are really important to master our lives and feel really good about our lives going forward. And last but not least, there's a daily community event. We have trained facilitators and coaches who are in there doing that work, showing up to support you on your journey every single day. Please join me on the other side. Come check it out. See if it's a fit for you. I'd love to see you there. Go ahead and sign up by clicking the link in the description box below. How does this apply to the relationship to ourselves? Well, what we see so often is as a fearful avoidant attachment style, you may actually not be considering your feelings because you're too busy considering everybody else's. You may not be consistent in the relationship to yourself and how you treat yourself, how you treat your boundaries, how you treat your own needs and emotions. You may not really give context to why you're doing what you're doing. In other words, when we start to understand ourselves better, we build more self trust because we have context for who we are, why we operate in the ways that we operate. And of course, when we can make sure that we are congruent, right? So we have the congruency, we've got the consistency, the consideration, and the context. And when we can give these things in the relationship to ourselves, especially around your own boundaries and allowing yourself to take up space, allowing yourself to be heard, communicating your needs to others, setting your boundaries without fear, and allowing yourself to follow through. When you can do that, these are the elements that are necessary to rebuild self trust in the relationship to you. And the more you are doing this and the more consistent you are about doing this, the more you're going to see you start trusting yourself to weather the storms, to get through different pain points and challenges. And also, if somebody doesn't show up in a relationship the way they said that they were going to, or in a way that isn't feeling good for you, you trust yourself to speak up and communicate about it, which not only allows you to actually move through the different trust challenges with others more effectively, because if you're sharing yourself with other people, if you're actually sharing your truth and your needs, people can see you, they can know you, they can understand you better, and that allows them to better consider you. One of the biggest pain points for fearful avoidance, in my opinion, is that fearful avoidance will hide themselves. They will people please, they won't be vulnerable, they won't share their truth, they won't state their needs or let people know that they're emotionally affecting them. And so people don't know enough about you to properly consider you because you're not letting them in. You're not letting them see what affects you and what doesn't, what you need and don't need, what is healthy for you or not healthy. And so the more you can start giving that to yourself, it gives you room to bring that into your external relationships. And this is going to help you not just repair trust within you and create more confidence and consistency and stability in the relationship to yourself, but then that will flourish outwards into your relationships with other people. And this is of the utmost importance. So, if you want to work on this, make a list. How can I start building more consistency in the relationship to myself, more congruency? How can I introspect more and give myself more context? And most importantly, arguably, how can I be more considerate of my own feelings, needs, and emotions and share them with others? And as you do this, this is going to be the cornerstone or the foundation for how you can really improve self trust and allow you to actually start trusting other people better and letting them in. Now, if you want to do a much deeper dive into this topic, because I know trust can be a sticky one for fearful avoidance, I have a whole course. It's called How to Repair Broken Trust and Overcome Jealousy. If you ever experience any of this in your relationships, and it includes a whole chapter and module all about self trust. It has a workbook, it has all the exercises laid out for you with a whole bunch of different suggestions for how to navigate this. And it's designed to really help you repair broken self trust within a 30-day period. So check it out if you'd like to. Free trial down below in the description box. And thank you so much for watching today. If you have any other questions about self trust, or you want to share with me how trust affects you in your external relationships, but also in the relationship to yourself, I would love to hear from you. And I can go ahead and create more YouTube content about this as well. So thank you so much for watching. Please subscribe, hit the notification bell if you don't want to miss any of our daily content here at the PDS YouTube channel. And I can't wait to see you in future videos.